Hello people of YouTube, my name is Brad, this is my channel Animate Orange, and this week in 3D metal model news, honestly, there's not really anything going on. It is once again a very quiet week. Fascinations page is unchanged. We still have the Hogwarts Castle sitting in coming soon. Nothing new has been added, nothing new has moved over. I do want to point out, however, the Hogwarts Castle is now listed as Hogwarts in Snow. Don't know when that changed, but thank you to CodeWookie for pointing that out. I might have completely missed it on my own. However, I've looked on Crazy Toys website, I've looked on AliExpress, I've even bumped around eBay to see if I can't uncover anything new from the Disney exclusives or Universal Studios. Everything seems to be quiet this week. There's just nothing new in the world of 3D metal models. The closest I've got, from my understanding, Fascinations, or at least some people in Fascinations, are going to be at the New York Toy Fair this weekend, which isn't a public event. However, in the next few days we may get some more sneak peeks of models coming soon, maybe. It's hard to say for sure, but really that's all I've got as far as new news this week. It is still a quiet week. How much of that is just we've had a lot of new stuff coming out and things are resetting in the new year, even though we're well into February. There's nothing new in the world of 3D metal model news, so we pretty much go straight to last week's topic of the week. And last week I was talking about how I was looking forward to building more of the classic Ford models, but I basically asked the question, I would like to see some other classic cars, some other brands perhaps. What is some stuff or particular classic cars or any car that you would like to see? And I got a number of responses, which I will talk about here. Starting with Lee Kisselberg. Would love to see the 1959 Cadillac convertible, Studebaker Avanti, Hudson Hornet, something different than the same old big three makers. Also, maybe some unique 1070s makes models. Wonder if that's supposed to be 1970s. Glad to see some new aircraft coming too. Keep up the good work, Brad. I respect that. Something out of the ordinary. There are certain classic cars that most people think of, but I would definitely love to see some Studebakers. That's very interesting. Maybe some other unique vehicles. Why not? That sounds pretty cool. I mean, honestly, the DeLorean is pretty unique. If it wasn't for Back to the Future, most of us probably wouldn't even know what a DeLorean is. CodeWiki comments, Chevy 57 Bel Air and Lake Spur Blue. Short and simple, and that would be one of the classic cars a lot of people think about is the 57 Chevy. I respect that. 57 Chevy, it almost kind of has to happen if we're going to do anything Chevy. Christopher Thorpe. Hi Brad, hope all your doctor's appointments go well. Car-wise, I would love to see a Formula One range. I have the unofficial one, but licensed color ones would be very welcome. Also, how about a movie TV car range? Ecto 1, Mad Max, Back to the Future DeLorean, to name a few, would be very welcome models. Yeah, the Ecto 1 would be really cool. I imagine that one would be pretty finicky, but as detailed as Metal Earth has gotten with some of their models, why couldn't they do it? That'd be pretty cool. Personally though, I'd like the original Ecto 1 that was built out of the, I believe, 60s Cadillac. Not so fond of the Ecto 1 out of the 70s, or I think it was 70s or 80s Cadillac. No thank you. Not making any remarks about the movie. I haven't even seen it. Just didn't like that style of vehicle. Mark Ober, I'd love to see Metal Earth do a series on some classics VWs like The Thing, Carmen Gia, Beetle, Safari Bus, etc. Great videos, Brad. You're my go-to for Metal Earth info on YouTube. Keep up the great work, my Metal Earth Sensei. Thank you. VW Beetles and VW cars. That's an interesting thought. I wouldn't have thought of that. The Beetle, the old school Beetle, would be an interesting one to shape. Then again, we've got Bumblebee, which is a Beetle. At least his older version, older style, is a Beetle. So why not? That's a possibility. It's an interesting thought. John Finnegan Jr. As far as the classic car ideas, I'd like to see a 65 Chevelle. Also, maybe a 55 or 57 Chevy. Maybe a Dodge Charger like the General Lee from Dukes of Hazzard. Even some of the mid-70s pickup trucks, a Dodge Power Wagon or a Studebaker pickup. Best would be the Jetsons car from the classic cartoon. Thanks for the videos and keep up the good work. The Jetsons car, that's an interesting thought. How would they do the clear bubble top? Very interesting thought. Studebaker, I like that. 65 Chevelle, another fairly classic hot rod. 50 to 55 Chevy. We've already heard the 57 Chevy brought up by Code Wookie, so no surprise that people would be mentioning 50s Chevys right there. Richard Kroll, I'd love to see a model of the 1957 Chevy Corvette. I respect that. My memory's a little foggy. Was the 57 the first one, or was that the 56? I can't remember when the Corvette first came. Oh, maybe it was the 53. There's such a long line of Corvettes to choose from. There's so many. I respect it. No, the 57 wasn't the first. I think it was the 53 that was the first. But anyway, my particular favorite as far as Corvettes, style-wise, is the early 60s, like the Stingrays, either flat back window or the split window, either one. I really loved that body style personally. I used to have a 76 Trans Am, which had a very similar body style with the kind of raised front fenders over the tires. Really liked that style myself. Moving on. Match Drummer UK, not a classic car, but it would be cool to get the Dodge Challenger as it has a unique shape, or a classic Cadillac would be cool. The ones that used to have the fins on the back. So yeah, the fins. My folks used to have one of the 80s ones that still had sort of a fin shape on the back, and they look neat until that piece between the tail light and the body starts to deteriorate, because it's like a plastic piece there to fill in that gap. There's no point in it other than it fills in the gap to extend the back and give it that style, and once it starts to deteriorate, it looks terrible. Anyway, yeah, that would be an interesting model. There's certainly a lot of vehicles out there to choose from, and those are some interesting ideas. Some ones I'm embarrassed I didn't think of, like Ecto 1. Some ones I never would have thought of, like the Jetsons. That's a very interesting. Imagine having a series of Jetsons style models, kind of like we've got the Flintstones. We could have some odds and ends from the Jetsons. What would we have? Some of the little housing units up in the air, or cars, or I don't know. That's an interesting thought. I'm going to think about that one for a while. I'm trying to think of what kind of topic I want to bring up for this week, because I've been doing this every week for quite a while now. The one thing that popped into my head, transition from cars to engines. I kind of would like to see Metal Earth do motors. Some maybe iconic motors or classic motors. Like maybe a flathead V8 with some detail. You can see the breather and the carburetor and the starter, and just maybe even have the transmission on it. I don't know, just throwing some ideas out there. Or maybe a classic Chevy V8, a 350, or maybe a Hemi or a Slant 6, or just, you know, a nailhead Buick V8. Just something that's a little bit unique that a lot of people would kind of recognize it. I kind of think that would be interesting. Maybe I'm all alone. I'm a tinkerer, which is part of the reason I'm into this hobby. I like to tinker and build and take things apart and put them back together and understand how they work. So it kind of ties in with why I enjoy this so much, because I'm building things. But maybe it's just me. Is anybody else? Would anybody else out there be interested in seeing a detailed engine? And what engine in particular? Do you like the idea of a flathead V8, or maybe an old Buick V8 or Oldsmobile, or a Dodge Hemi, or I don't know what else out there? Maybe a Viper V12, maybe an engine out of a 911. I don't know. I'd throw some ideas at me. Does anybody else think that would be a neat idea, or is it just me? One other thing I kind of want to comment on, I mentioned last week how I had several doctor's appointments lined up, and that probably wasn't going to impact the videos this week, but it might impact next week, and that's what's happened. I had time to finish up editing the videos of the build that I already had, but I haven't had the time. Here it is Friday. Normally by this point, things were going well. I'd have something built, mostly built, if not completely built, that I could spend the weekend editing and have something up by Monday. I don't have anything. I don't even have two pieces put together right now. I've got a few models that I've decided are going to be next, and I've recorded like the package opening. but I don't see me having any build videos next week, unfortunately, and I apologize for that. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. I put myself into all of these projects that I do with the Metal Earth models and with the Etsy store and 3D printed tools that I use in my hobby. I enjoy it. I've learned a lot from it, but I've realized lately I've kind of pushing myself a little too much and wearing myself a little thin. So I've kind of backed off a little bit, mainly with the Etsy store. I'm taking a break from that for the rest of the month because I'm on top of building the models and doing these videos, which I love doing and I enjoy doing. Running the Etsy store on top of that and making sure things are 3D printed and out the door and trying to build an inventory, and the store's honestly picked up, which is good, but it's getting more difficult for me to keep up with. So for right now, I don't have anything in stock. Over the rest of this month, possibly the next month, I will try to, when I have spare time, build up a little bit of a stock with the intentions of sometime next month opening the store for a short time with stock for those of you who still want to buy some of the 3D printed tools that I have. I know there's people out there. Alternatively, I have shared the STL files. If you have a 3D printer, have access to one, know somebody that has one, maybe even your local library. That's how I got started. My local library has a 3D printer, and I learned how to use it there, and that's where I started designing these tools. The STL files for the tools that are sold on my Etsy are all available on my mini factory site. I have a collection of all the tools. I'm going to try and start including that link in the description down below so that anybody who has their own 3D printer can print this for themselves or have somebody print it for you rather than ordering it. I never really did this with the intention of making a lot of money. It does help support the channel and support what I do, but I want people to have access to these tools so that they can enjoy them just like I do, can use them just like I do. I can't really say that I'd be able to provide you support as far as using the 3D printer, but the STLs are out there, and in the future as I come up with new tools, if I come up with something new, which I am working on some things when time allows. However, it's taking me forever because I'm keeping myself so busy with so many other things. Should I come out with something new, I will share the STLs there as well. That will also hopefully help anyone who's not in the US. In another country, the shipping in some places is ridiculous, especially for the weight and size of what I'm shipping for these tools. They weigh practically nothing. They're made out of plastic. It would allow perhaps people in other countries who have access to a 3D printer to be able to have these tools rather than paying more in shipping than you did for the tool itself. But going back to the fact that I had several appointments this week, so far it's good news. Everything is going good. I kind of want to talk more about it, but I kind of don't until I know more information. The big thing is I had my right heart catheterization, where they basically check the transplanted heart to see how it's doing. Pressures are good, pumping good. That all looks good. The only thing that I'm waiting for is the biopsy results. They always take a biopsy to make sure there's no sign of rejection or to see if there's a sign, and if there is, they can do something about it. Still waiting for those results. Probably will get a call any moment now. I have no reason to believe it would be bad news, as everything has been fine for the past 2.5 years. But you never know what can change. I'm feeling okay, feeling good about it, waiting for that call, expecting it to be good news. And there's possibly some other good news for me on the horizon health-wise, but again, I hesitate to talk about that until I know more. But there may be, as I've said this before, there may be changes on the horizon, and I was wrong. So I kind of hesitate to go into that. But as always, I'm going to try and keep it on. I'm going to leave it at that. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you to my Patreon supporters for continuing to support this channel. I do appreciate your support to not only help me keep going, but help me to help others in this wonderful hobby, this wonderful community that we have in this hobby. I love the community. Such wonderful people. I'm going to quit babbling on. Thank you for watching. See you at least next week, possibly sooner, but at least next week, hopefully with more exciting news. Thank you for watching. As always, keep it on.